The New York Association of Clinical Psychologists presents The Mind's Eye. Hello viewers, I'm Dr. Herbert Robbins, your moderator for the Mind's Eye series. Do you know anyone with bad habits? Somebody who knows better but still engages in behavior that hurts himself or herself, like smoking, overeating, or excessive use of alcohol or drugs? Why don't they stop? Why is it so hard to change? Well, these and other such questions are going to be discussed today by our panel of expert psychologists as the Mind's Eye focuses on breaking bad habits. So, stay tuned. Hello again, viewers. Dr. Herbert Robbins here for the Mind's Eye. First, I'm going to introduce you to a panel of expert psychologists. On my right, there's Dr. Daniel Yalisove. Did I pronounce that correctly, Dan?
Yes, you did.
Dan is an associate professor at John Jay College of the City University of New York. He's also a visiting professor at the New York University postdoctoral program. He's an independent practice here in Manhattan, and he's a New York State licensed psychologist. And he has a book which you've edited, right?
Yeah, I edited this book. It's called The Essential Papers on Addiction.
Okay, and you have another one coming up.
Yes, The Clinical Applications of Alcohol Research.
Great. Great. Glad to have you back on the show, Dan.
It's a pleasure. I really enjoyed the first time, so I couldn't wait to get back.
Terrific. Okay, and on my left is Dr. Elan Golomb. Dr. Elan Golomb is a New York State licensed psychologist and psychoanalyst in independent practice, both in New York City and in Warwick, New York.
Warwick, New York.
Right. She's the author of a book which she finally brought.
I didn't bring it. Ben brought it.
Trapped in the Mirror. It's in paperback now, and as well as hardcover. It's available, what, in the Barnes & Noble?
Sure.
On Amazon.com and
Yeah.
so on? Okay. You're not only a writer, an editor, a columnist, and so on. Dr. Golomb is also our panelist in residence on the show. So, again, welcome back. As always, it's a delight to have you, Elan.
Thank you, Herbert.
My own credentials: I'm a New York State licensed psychologist and psychoanalyst in independent practice here in Manhattan. And I'm also a semi-retired professor in the City University of New York. We start off our show, listeners, with a letter from one of our viewers. And here's the one that the panel decided on. Dear Mind's Eye, I was slim when I got married 3 years ago, but now I'm considerably overweight. But somehow I can't stay on a diet because whenever I'm unhappy, I eat. I want to lose weight because I want to become pregnant, and also it's ruining my marriage. Can you help? Well, Dan?
Well, it's a very rich kind of question with a lot of interesting details. What I'd like to do first is just talk about bad habits in general.
Okay.
And one of the things that I've learned, I teach a lot of courses at John Jay, and I ask my students to observe their own habits. And as an assignment, I ask them to choose a bad habit that they want to change. And what's essential in the assignment is that they pick a habit that is measurable, and also that it's realistic. So I edit their responses so that if they want to lose 200 pounds in 2 weeks, I say to them, well, cut it down a little bit, And also it has to be measurable. and also under their control. So I say it's not a question of losing weight, it's a question of changing your behavior. So in other words, a goal, you can't control in a given day what your weight is, but you can control how much you take in. So those are the two things that I ask them to modify.
Yeah.
Then I ask them to keep a diary for 1 week of that habit, whether it's smoking or reading or whatever, just to observe the behavior. And the point of that is to build motivation, for them to observe the habit, how much it's infiltrated their life, how it affects them, and to build a self-motivation. Hey, this is something that's worthwhile to change. Then I ask them to implement a strategy for change. And I want them to come up with their own creative idea.
Okay.
So it could be prayer, it could be substitution, it could be enlisting the help of a positive person, it could be some sort of reward that they give to themselves. I let them develop their own creative approach. Sometimes they even try self-manipulation, so to speak, some clever, like setting the clock forward if they're getting up late and things like that.
And you find yourself having a reaction?
That's interesting, because these are habits I would assume that people, at least for a while, think they can control when they bring it in. They have some sense, although I would say that I would ask them to report a year hence to see if they had still maintained the gain that they got over the week. Because a lot of people will give something up sort of like they take a vacation from their habit, but then they go back to their habit. I'm interested in the things that stimulate the creation of the habit, because very often that is also a key to giving it up. Like if you don't know what purpose it serves, if all you're aware of is the nasty side of it, how annoying to be gaining weight, or how annoying to be getting larger when you know you want to look svelte and attractive for your husband and so forth. All you're looking at is the absurd nature of yourself, and you have no idea why you're doing this. And to say that, well, when I'm nervous I eat, I mean, then what you were talking about, you could have a substitute symptom if you like. When I'm nervous, I ring a bell. When I'm nervous, I buy a dress. When I'm nervous, you can do a lot of things that don't put weight on. But you have to know why that person chose this approach. And weight is also very interesting to me, because I think that the fatter a person gets, the more invisible they are. Like you always think a fat person is bigger and you see them, they come on like a mountain. But there's all these issues around getting larger that are not dealt with. Like one would be, you can't see the real me, I'm hiding in here. Which maybe this woman's experiencing in this marriage because she's afraid of being seen. You know, I think she should look into why she needs to gain weight.
Yeah, I would also wonder, as you did, as Elan did, whether it would be sufficient were we to focus on this lady to do the kind of behavior modification, which can sometimes work, of course. But if she's saying that she's eating because she's unhappy, when people are unhappy, wouldn't the issue be, why is she unhappy? Maybe she's unhappy, for example, in her marriage. And has she learned, for example, if does unhappy mean that she's angry? And is one of the ways that she's dealing with the anger to eat? I mean, as just one possibility.
Yeah, well, I'd like to hold off talking about her motivations for a moment, and let me just finish the exercise, because I hadn't quite finished that. And that is, what I found was that the students, a significant percentage, were able to change their habits. And that they wanted to continue to maintain the change. And that included smoking, it included weight, it included having more nutritious diets. There were two findings that were very interesting. One was that students tended to get very upset if they had any sort of relapse at all. They overreacted to having a cigarette, or they overreacted to having one eating episode. And so that's an important aspect if you're going to work on this change yourself. That is, you have to build in the fact that you're going to have some relapse, and that's common for any addiction.
Do they ever figure out why they have a relapse?
Very often they know. Typically it's stress related. Typically, for example, with smoking,
Yes.
the students almost inevitably
Yes.
would say that they had a stressful day, or just the smoke from a neighbor would trigger a very strong craving. So, there are ways, and then if this approach, which is a very behavioral approach,
Yes.
if this doesn't work, then it makes sense to me to explore the kind of things that Elan was talking about.
Did you find, was there ever any follow-up with your students to find out whether, as Elan was saying, whether the gains that they made in the class were maintained over, say, a year? Because, you know, we have this issue of people going on diets, they lose the weight, then they gain it again, or they lose it, then they gain it again, and so on.
Well, there's no question that scientifically speaking, diets don't work. That is a $6 billion industry which provides no long-lasting benefits.
That's interesting, I didn't know that.
That's absolutely true. There's no research which documents a beneficial effect of dieting. So I do not recommend dieting. And the program I'm recommending is very different from dieting. But in terms of my own informal findings, there are students that gave up smoking for sure. But I can't give you any statistics. I have a small grant.
Just wondered.
I have a small grant, and I'm going to do some research on smoking to see if this does have a long-term benefit for smoking.
You know, one of the things about the approach of behavior mod approach is that I think what sometimes gets ignored is the impact of who in this case, who the teacher is, and their feelings about you, and what kind of a bonding that they have with you.
Well, one of the strong feelings I have about changing habits is you want to enlist a cooperative relationship and an understanding relationship. So I do, even though it's diluted over a large number of people, I do think I give them the freedom and the respect so that they can feel, gee, I can confront this problem without, I'm not going to be made fun of at the end.
But I'd like to give another example. This is the other side of the coin. I know a gal, she was raised in a family of sinners, I mean, where the parents were very moralistic and they were always attacking the kids. And she was the favorite one because she was attacked the most. She thought she was going to become a nun. Everything she did was always wrong for some reason. Like if she painted and cleaned the kitchen cabinets, had them out on the front steps, spent the whole weekend on it, the mother pointed out there was paint left on the stairs. Something was always wrong with everything she did. And this is, they always, if she gave gifts, she made a gift for somebody, then why didn't she make it for someone else's child? There was always a reason that she was wrong and sinning against somebody.
From her background.
Yeah. So now when she can't give up smoking, she gets down to X number of cigarettes. She's got the patch too, but she still has her 3 cigarettes, and all of a sudden it goes up to a pack. And she does other things like that. She comes in late to work, she makes a mess. She's a great worker, a very fine worker, but she always does things that contaminate her image, that make her look bad. Because she is still playing the role of the sinner. This was what she was supposed to be in her family, and she has a lot of bad habits that fit right